Welcome to Music Matters Podcast with Darrell Craig Harris, talking about all things music with celebrities, artists, music business insiders, and more. Welcome to Music Matters, a podcast about all things music, and today, actually, all things music and creative. Today, we have amazing director, cinematographer, producer, kind of a man of many hats, and editor we were just talking about. Dean Bushala. Dean has been involved in numerous shows, including Ice Road Truckers. Let's see, I have to actually read the list because it's so long. Ice Road Truckers, Moonshiners, Deadliest Catch, Biker Build-Off, American Loggers, and that's just scratching the surface. Hi, how you doing, Dean?
I'm doing great,
So where are you right now?
I am down in Pigeon Forge. Wow, and I'm blanking on this. Where is Pigeon Forge?
Oh, God. Tennessee, right?
Tennessee, yeah. Thank you. Because
that's sort of like that's Dollywood territory, right?
I my beautiful hotel actually overlooks the parking lot of Dollywood, so it's
nice.
Yeah, we're down here wrapping up the anniversary season 10 of Moonshiners.
Wow, I didn't realize that's been on that long.
Yeah, it's one of those. I was lucky enough. Came in on season 3. And I remember going, you can only make Moonshine in the Woods for so long.
Exactly.
I hope this goes to season 5.
Yeah, that's funny because actually that's sort of the thing with that. Like you never know, right?
You have no idea. Some of like the greatest characters and stories. I'm like, oh, this is my retirement show. Get 3 episodes. Yeah. And and then other shows where you're like, yeah, I could see 1 or 2. We're on 10. I don't want to take anything away from Moonshine.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Broadway thing. like you do all the work, you have the big opening, you get a couple of bad reviews, and then you're done. It's like you never freaking know, right?
Exactly.
You have a really interesting history, and so your hometown, or actually, are you from Chicago or Illinois in general? Or?
I'm a couple suburbs north of Chicago.
Okay.
On the lake. I grew up there, went to high school up there, and then went to Syracuse University.
Awesome.
Studied film there. I like to say that. My dad says, no, you watched a lot of movies.
Hey, I'm gonna get my music degree. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Now that I have kids in college, I'm like, yeah, I already tried that.
Yeah, I know you're wise to it, right?
Exactly. And then, from that, I just kind of jumped right into independent documentaries and independent filmmaking. I didn't go traditional LA route.
So when did you first get interested actually in doing film and making, or I don't know, how was that process for you? Was it making films with your friends, or what was sort of the process?
Yeah, I got in really early. You hear about it all the time. Like I made my first film when I was 8.
Right.
I wasn't that young, but I'm severely dyslexic, so growing up and doing anything with words was a nightmare.
Yeah.
But visually, I was always very strong with that. So I had a great tutor, and she gave me a video camera. I mean, like a full-size VHS camera that had the 20-foot cord to the top loading.
Old school.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're going on. I hate to say how old I am, but so I probably really started shooting probably when I was around 9. Got my first film camera at 10 from a friend's father, shooting Super 8. And this stuff's horrible, but the more you look, the more you do anything. You look to a camera and you start realizing what a shot is. You get hopefully better at it.
Yeah, it's sort of, I guess that's really, no matter how successful you are, you still have to go through that process, it seems.
Oh yeah. I watch these young directors that come out, and and you're like, my God, where'd this kid come from? This stuff is amazing. But you talk to him for 10, 15 minutes, and it's like, yeah, he's 30, but he's been doing it for 20 years as well.
And they sort of live and breathe that idiom.
Yeah. And then, you can learn anything. I mean, with the iPhone now, you can shoot great projects. So the tools are accessible. So it's just a matter of practice.
So then when you went to film school, what were you mainly focusing on? Were you kind of doing, I know you're known in a lot of different sort of areas. Obviously, cinematography is one. Is that how you sort of started, or what was when you got out of school? What was your first sort of beginnings?
It was kind of, I got into film school. I had a horrible track record at high school. I mean, I was not a very strong student. Again, the dyslexia side.
A lot of creatives have that say, like, me too. It's like, you know, I'm like, I want to go do stuff, and you're like sitting there going, learning history and all the, you know.
Yeah. I'm like, you know, this is the letters are moving on the page. I can't read it.
Oh yeah, true.
I had been working for a long time shooting films and interning at different places. So when I applied to Syracuse, the dean of the film school at the time, Owen Shapiro, really liked my portfolio.
Awesome.
And so I really got in on that, had some, you know, people write some good letters saying, hey, you know, give him a shot. And when I got there, I was just, you know, like everyone, you're like, I'm going to be a film director. You know, you get a little beret on, and
sure,
you know, and it took like 10 minutes for me to realize everyone wants to be a director. You need to have a hard skill, you know, and so I really
and you need to learn how the sausage is made before you can be a director.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's thousands of people that I'm in charge of now on big shows. Mm-hmm. So you know. Not thousands, hundreds. Let's not get crazy. You know, I'm not Game of Thrones.
Exactly. Thank God, right?
Yeah. But really, I really like the technical aspect of it. I like the framing, and then I'm very strong at organization and numbers. It's just kind of the default to not, you know, with the reading and spelling was always so bad. So editing was a natural, you know. And this was back in the day where you cut film and you had to track hundreds of strands of film hanging on the wall, knowing when you're going to use them. So I really became an editor, and from an editor started realizing how to frame things better, and that helped me shoot. And then people started asking me to kind of come out and can I shoot for them knowing what we need in post. So I kind of moved backwards.
Yeah, because that actually saves a huge amount of money and time if you know like what you're going to really need at the end product, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's when I'm shooting, it's really funny. I'm right now on the show that I'm with the cinematographer that's with me. He's always like, you call the shots out before I get a chance to frame it. And I'm like, it's not that you're slow. I'm editing this damn show in my head. And I don't want the guys in New York getting mad at me.
Exactly. Well, plus, you know, and we talked a little bit about that, but you actually, like, you're on a tight schedule. You have to get a certain amount of shows done. And what's considered a season? It's really, because we think of it in terms of a year, but it's really not that, correct?
No. I mean, it used to be a season, you know, when I started, seasons were like 12 episodes, 24, 22 episodes. When things started going to streaming with cable, it's kind of broken up. First season of Critter Fixers, which is coming on National Geographic Wild. So you'll be able to see it on Disney Plus. Their first season was 3 episodes, which when I started, that was kind of like, well, let's run a pilot or a sizzle, you know, let's do 3 episodes and
see if you can get interest. And
yeah. So with Moonshiners, I believe this year, 22 episodes. I think episode 1 and episode 2 are 2 hours.
Okay.
So, you know, this is a real big series. A lot of times it's between 8 to 12.
And it's the series I watched. Like, actually, a lot of the shows that you've been involved with, I watch. And like I said, you've done some of the shows you're producing, some you're directing, some you're editing cinematography. But Moonshiners is interesting because I always think about those shows, or even like Deadliest Catch or Ice Road Truckers, which we just talked about previously, was about just the location, dealing with the locations.
Yeah.
Like Ice Road Truckers, you're basically in the tundra.
Oh yeah, you know, or you're actually beyond. I mean, you're above the tree line. You're out on the frozen Arctic Ocean out there.
Right.
You know, when I got into reality, I had done television, or documentary, and then I was with MTV. And kind of reality was the mixture of 2 of them. So that's where I went. I really got into like what they were calling the He-Man TV. So it was like a lot of biker build-off, motorcycle mania, Monster
and
House.
I love the biker build-offs, Indian Larry, that whole thing. Like that. I mean, that's sort of run its course a little bit, but you still have a lot of the car shows. But it's pretty fascinating. Like, so the Ice Road Truckers, you're out there basically like in the tundra, or in, like you said, on the frozen ocean. When that first came up, that whole concept, what were you thinking, like, as far as putting that together?
There's a great story behind that one. I wasn't the original. I mean, it was one of those blessings in my career. I wasn't the original DP or cinematographer chosen for it. the cinematographer that went up had an issue, so they called me. They said, are you available? I'm like, yeah, that would be amazing. I said, great, you have 48 hours. Go buy the coldest weather gear you can buy. And Sony was shipping up cameras, so they needed me up there to start building kits. We had multiple teams. So I get up there, I bought these boots, and in Chicago, the guy's like, dude, total skier guy's like, dude, these boots are amazing, up to 20 below zero, man. You're gonna be fine. And I'm like, all right, I'm in Chicago,
Yeah, like what could go wrong?
Literally got off the plane and it was -30. And I was like, my feet were cold. And I'm like, okay. So
yeah, and that's no joke.
no, it gets bad. It's so funny because when people watch this show, the truckers will jump out of their trucks in hoodies and t-shirts, which is true. I mean, you can jump out in -30
for a minute
if you're out there for a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's all they need. So there was a lot of people arguing. So season 2, we really made a point of always filming the thermometer to show people we're not making that up.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you go into those areas, going back to your, the weather and the area, you just buy your clothes there. Yeah. So in my basement now, I have these big Tupperware bins, and literally they're labeled like desert clothes, Arctic clothes, underwater. Because if I'm in the
freezing
Amazon,
my ass off clothes.
It's miserable. It's miserable.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, like, a thing about those shows is, of course, as from the viewer's perspective, we see the one, basically we're seeing one camera at a time, whatever. Cinematography on a show like that's pretty cool because that's the scenery, even though it's stark, it's really fascinating. But putting that together, like, there's actually, like you said, hundreds of people that you're dealing with, and you got to set the daily schedule. It's a whole thing, right? Yeah.
I mean, it's the large program format where you have your schedules and your call sheets and your organizing, but it's, the other side is it's the independent 1-2 man documentary team. So
yeah, each out with a different, basically, like Moonshiners, a different crew, trucker with ice road truckers, a different truck. They have to follow that guy around, right?
Yeah, and you just need to, you have a chessboard on the wall, and you're like, who haven't we filmed with? What is that guy hauling? What cameraman's available? Does that personality get along with that guy? I mean, there are guys you just don't put together because you'll get a bad story.
Yeah.
But and then you have the emergency. The first truck that went out on season 1 of Ice Road Truckers went out 3 days early. We weren't ready for it.
Oh.
So I was actually working with a guy putting a camera on a helicopter, and they called me and they said they're going to take the first truck out. I ran down there, grabbed a camera, jumped in, and the follow vehicle was behind me. And I'm like, I'm just going to go 200 yards out onto the ice. I'll get my shots and we'll figure it out later. No one told me you can't stop a truck on the ice.
Yeah. So, it's got to keep moving, right?
Yeah. Got to keep moving. So it was about maybe 3-4 hours, and we hit our first piece of land because, they're going over lakes and rivers. And I'm like, okay, I'll look for the chase vehicle. And the guy's like, oh, that chase vehicle stopped 4 hours ago. They're not allowed out on the ice. So I was like, day one, we made a mistake, So, I had to do the whole route. Took quite a bit of time.
Yeah, that's there's so many parts and pieces to that. Tell me, to go backwards a little bit in your story, the MTV, how did that MTV thing happen? I know you first went to Poland, but how did that connection happen?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those like beautiful, wacky stories that I would never repeat, but man, I'm thankful I had. I had been designing, I did a documentary in Chicago, and from that I started shooting commercials. So I knew a lot of people at post houses.
And that documentary, actually, tell us a little bit about that just before we move on, because that was actually a really important part of your career.
Sure. Yeah, I did Green on Thursdays with my partner, Deirdre Heaslip, back in the day. And we were out of college. We were looking for something to do. We wanted a documentary that'd be a little different. Yeah. And we were living in a gay area of Chicago. It's kind of the Wrigleyville area. They call it Boys Town. And the local paper was always talking about hate crimes, but the mainstream media never was. So we were like, oh, this is interesting. What is this about? And it was about 2.5 years while we were making that documentary about hate crimes. We were looking at like a 3-part series, maybe one about religion, hate crimes against people of color, and then hate crimes against, gay, lesbian groups at the time. They've added many more letters on. When I was,
right,
we're going back 40 years, 30 years now.
Yeah.
but when we were doing the documentary, we didn't really know what we were doing. We didn't know how to do it, but it was really about we were given a lot of great access because people really liked what we were trying to do.
And they want to tell that story, right?
Yeah. The story was very important. And now looking at it, the camera work's not very good. The editing's a little overindulgent. It's like, oh, what were we thinking? But what had happened was the film was released within a few weeks of the Don't Ask, Don't Tell period in the military. So what had happened was film comes out, it gets in a couple of festivals, and then we got swept up in the who has something that's relevant, that's new, that's about the gay community. So we were in all the newspapers. We started getting into bigger festivals. The film in New York premiered at MoMA. It played at the Kennedy Center for Members of Congress. Again, it's not a great film. We just got really lucky. I think my career has always been that way. But
do you think that like content, I mean, start talking about creators and content to begin with, if it has truth, even if it may be rough around the edges, that the truth is actually what is the important part of it, right?
I think that's what people really appreciated about what we were doing, because here we're two young, we were early 20s, two straight kids trying to make a documentary. But at the same time, when we went in, we weren't telling them what their story was. We were just asking them because we really didn't know. I had no idea.
And maybe like a more experienced film crew would actually try to form that, but actually because you didn't, maybe you got the real truth of the matter. You think?
I think so. The lack of experience on how to really shape a documentary was really probably our best education, because ultimately it's where I learned you have to trust your subject, and that goes in even when I do my TV commercials and we've cast someone. You've cast this person for a reason. So as a director, you want to kind of sit back and let them bring their experience and their art to whatever you're filming. Of course, you want to direct them and shape them, but you don't want to hold them down.
Yeah, and you want to let them tell their story, right? Because they have, that's the thing. Like if you surround yourself with great people, then you're getting great content.
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I kind of, after MTV and doing all this controlled content, I really went back to, reality was just coming out in the early 2000s. That's when I came back to the States. And it was a great way. It was the love of documentary and the idea of letting people tell their story and finding it. But at the same time, there was security because it was television. So obviously paychecks, and there were networks behind you. So, my first documentary took 3 years. We self-funded, when we were all
and you don't know if you're going to find an outlet at that point.
No. We were lucky enough to get a film distribution. It played at a few theaters. It was pre-internet, so the VCR sales were really bad. I think we broke even on the film prints. You know what I mean? Like not even on the production side.
But you know what? If you in that situation, if you break even, it's like, yes, it's a win.
Yeah. And I got stacks of film cans now. I'm like, I don't want to throw them away because I do they're expensive, but they're worthless. So
the MTV story. So you did the documentary, and then how did the MTV thing come about?
Well, I was designing some logo stuff, and my brother, my older brother, was in Europe doing commercial real estate, and he had started working with Bob Geldof, Bob from Boomtown Rats and Live Aid had a large production company in London, and he realized with my brother, they're like, hey, why don't we start making native language music television? Because what was happening is everything was coming out of London and going to all the countries.
Right.
And Germany had come out with Viva, and they realized, well, when they're playing local music with local VJs speaking the local language, it did better.
Right. Sure.
So they had called me up and they said, hey, can you help us with the logo? So I did a 3D logo at the time. And they're like, oh, you own some gear. Why don't you come over for 6 weeks, shoot some stuff? And 6 weeks, slowly turned into, I think we were there just like 2 days shy of 5 years.
Wow.
It was a long haul. The first year we set up MTV Poland, which was under the banner Atomic Television. Okay. And then from Atomic Television, then they would rebrand it if it was successful, which fortunately it was. We went into Romania next. And again, they were hiring local talent. I had a small team of about 5 Americans. We were kind of the seed group. We'd go in and help source people out. There were some
Yeah,
people
because you need to have there's a certain look and vibe to the whole MTV. Well, at that point, anyway. Not
Oh
anymore.
yeah, not anymore. Yeah, well,
Sadly.
and, the whole idea was like, well, if it's going to be local, again, going back to the story, you hire local people and let them bring the look, the feel, and the interest.
Yeah, because they tell their own story best, right?
Of course, and clearly I didn't know that, and I also didn't speak the language, so it was like try to find young creative people. And fortunately, I went over in '95, came back in 2000. Fortunately, there were a lot of young people that really spoke English. So the language barrier was broken for me, which allowed me to really tap into the creative, underworld there of the music subworld. I don't mean underground, but
yeah. When you did MTV, when you came back, you started getting into the reality TV thing. What was the interest for you? I guess you had, because of the documentary background, it sort of seemed like a natural fit, but then you also mentioned the financial security, which is important.
Yeah. Well, I came back. My editor at the time became my wife. We had a child, and we're like, we're not going to do this in Eastern Europe. It's too hard.
Yeah, exactly.
And so when we came back, it was like, it's kicking around, trying to figure out what to do. And again, I always tell when I talk to younger people that are trying to get in, it's, just reach out to people. A buddy of mine called me to wish me happy birthday. He was in Los Angeles. And he's like, I know this is too big for you, too small for you, but I'm looking for a camera operator. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing anything. I'd love to have the opportunity. And he's like, we're trying a new series. It's going to be called, I don't even think stuff was branded reality TV, but he was a producer under Tom Beers over at Original Productions. And they said, we're going to do a motorcycle thing. Why don't you come out and film? And
and this is during the Orange County chopper period. Like some of the motorcycle shows were pretty big.
They were just coming out. Orange County choppers and biker build off were kind of coming at the same time. Orange County chopper guys, it's a great example of they cast dudes that were interesting, and let's see if they can make motorcycles, because they weren't real motorcycle builders when they started. And Motorcycle Mania and Biker Build Off, which the groups I was working with, they were finding builders, and then they were trying to find the most interesting talent.
Because guys can be great builders, but they don't talk, or they don't,
exactly
find that.
Exactly. And I think that's why those shows were able to live on the network at the same time, because you had one that was completely driven by characters, and then you had one that was driven by design. They're not taken away from either one.
Yeah, just different entities in the same realm.
Sure. And it's, and they liked what I was doing. I got lucky, and that company, Original Productions, they were like, well, we're going to do a Monster House, and we're looking at Monster Garage with Jesse James, and then like, well, you kind of have experience in Europe and stuff. We're looking at shooting a pilot, with boats. Are you interested? I'm like, sure, and then so I did some early work on Deadliest Catch.
Right.
And then at the same time, Ice Road Truckers came out, and I got that opportunity. And it's just kind of like I said, you get real lucky. I always tell younger people, if you don't know the camera they're talking about, the camera, just say yes, read the manual on there.
Exactly. And I think that's, because I come from music, the background, but what I've learned in my life, as far as just, it's sort of say yes and figure it out, right? It's sort of like because those little opportunities, like you said, the camera thing, even though you had lots of experience doing other stuff, that sort of, when you trace things back, that led to what you're doing now. It's all connected. Right? Oh
yeah. And, don't bite too big of a piece of the sandwich if you don't really know, if you don't know how to
don't
chew.
lie, but
but because I've, it's happened to me now as an executive. I hire people, and they're like, oh yeah, sure I do. And it's like, dude, I want you to learn, but not at the rate I'm paying you and with the deadline I have. You have to be smart about it.
Absolutely. And do you, as far as like new talent and people, like I'm sure you get contacted by a lot of folks wanting to get into the business. How do you deal with that? And like, is that a passion for you, trying to help younger directors or actually cinematographers, everybody?
No, I mean, right now, because I'll staff an entire team. So I'll look for production assistants, a PA, all the way up to producers directly under me. A few years ago, because I have a daughter who's 20 now. I also have a son that's 20 and a little guy that's only 9. but you know, I watched what was happening with my daughter, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to give more young women an opportunity. You know, this was a big push a couple of years ago because 17, she couldn't get any work. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be different. You know, which was good because there aren't a lot of women in the industry.
Yeah, they're in certain like makeup and that kind of hair thing, but they're not really on camera directing.
No. And then so I literally, two of my favorite cinematographers. I mean, I have a lot that I have a good list of people I really enjoy working with, but probably the top two are women. And they're super strong in what they deliver. They're capable of doing anything that a man, you know, I mean, that's the thing that's so funny is people are like, oh, you know, carrying the cameras or you have to go hiking. Women will kick most men's butts in what we're doing.
Yeah, and that's situation, and especially when they get opportunities like that to break in, like they're willing to work their butts off.
Yeah. Hands down, my best AC that I have, Miranda. I mean, again, no disrespect to the other ones, but I love what she brings to it. I mean, she's hungry, she's a strong worker, and you know, it's not about her being a woman. In fact, if it ever comes up, you know, not only does she get frustrated, but typically her team does. It's like, why did you mention gender? You know, which is the way it should be. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are lots of times where I'm like, I get worried. Is this the right role? Is this the right position for someone?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, that's your job as like executive producer. You have to think about all that stuff, but
yeah, well, I want people to be safe. You know, I mean, at the end of the day, you're down on
man or woman. It doesn't either way. Yeah.
You know, if you're not good on a boat, not a good place to be. I had a great sound guy once who we were filming one of those catfishing shows, you know, you're catching it with your hand.
Yeah.
And a super great audio guy. But he had sickle cell anemia, and water is a terrible place for someone with sickle cell. And I'm like, you probably should tell me this because I don't want to kill you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to put you in a situation you're going to get hurt. Or
somebody doesn't like the cold. They probably shouldn't do Ice Road Truckers.
Yeah. Well, it's why I really don't shoot Deadliest Catch. I'll take cold. And I'm not going to take cold and wet. It's just not my.
Well, they've had issues on that show where they had camera people or new guys that end up getting really seasick.
Oh yeah. You have to airlift those guys out, and that, I mean, from a production standpoint, there's a crazy cost. From a humanity standpoint, it's like, I don't want to watch one of my guys die.
Of course, yeah, right.
You know, I mean, it's pretty crazy. You know, the logger shows are another great. I mean, you're camping, you're living in the woods, and it's, you know, then all of a sudden you become this interesting situation where it's like, well, I got a mixed crew. You know, where do I house the women? Where do I house the men? Because a lot of that, my guys, they're all survival people, so they're like, oh, we'll live in the tent together. It's no big deal. But there are different needs that men and women have. Yeah. When the camera's not rolling.
And actually, it is a business. You have to be cognizant of all the normal stuff of running a business, right?
Well, I still have to follow OSHA rules.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So even though when you watch some of those shows, you think, I wonder what the OSHA guy would say.
Yeah. Trust me. Yeah. We have a lot of that. We have a lot of that.
I'm sure you do.
Can we tweak that edit? You know, so I did a lot with young women, camera operators in the camera department. Our last show was really great because it was a great, not only mix of men and women, but something that I don't see a lot is I don't typically have an opportunity to bring in a lot of people of color. And the reason I say that is my world's very small.
Yeah.
So if, you know, a lot of times I'm like, okay, who's the guy that shot lions with me before? I need him to go. And
right. And that's the thing about breaking into the industry, because it takes a lot to be willing to give somebody new in that environment. When you got to bring them out in a tight crew situation, you're reluctant to try new people, right? It doesn't really matter about race or gender or whatever, but just in general.
Yeah, when I'm in Chicago, you know, there are a ton of people, Hispanic and Black, you know, that I can pull from that I know are great and they know the Chicago market.
Right.
I'll hire them in a heartbeat. But when it comes to specialized shows, if I'm going into the Amazon for 5 weeks and we're living in the Amazon, it really doesn't come down to color or gender. It really comes down to who has the best survival instincts, because you're in a team of 4. And I need to know that my sound man not only is getting great sound, but I can count on him protecting me when I'm filming if he sees something around me. And a lot of people that haven't been in those environments get lost in terms of what they're looking at, and they don't think about the safety factor. And it's a big risk.
Yeah.
Really is.
Yeah. And it's good to bring that up because people, I mean, you watch those shows again, like I saw, even Ice Road Truckers or all those shows, like there's all the other elements of like, wow, that's challenging. Like what's like a really crazy story that comes to mind? I'm sure you have a lot, but what's some of the ones that you can tell on air?
That there you go. That's
exactly.
With animals, one of the craziest, I do a lot of vet shows, and we do a lot again because
and those have become really popular recently.
I mean, we just did a 8-part series for Disney Plus that was the magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom. So we got to work with the animals that not only that Animal Kingdom has, but also Disney and Epcot have. And it's great. And you're in Orlando, but it looks like Africa. So it was a dream to shoot it. But we had you have issues where you can't get too comfortable. It doesn't matter if it's a small little animal. If a monkey, a mandrill reaches out and scratches you, you're in trouble. Right. And Dr. Oakley for National Geographic, we were up in Alaska, and in the middle, there's no real science. It's cross of guessing game and her incredible ability to know what the dosage is for the medicine to keep that animal down and sedated.
Yeah, they can kind of estimate, but nothing's guaranteed.
Right. And we've had muskox wake up in the middle of a procedure, and when a large animal wakes up, it's startled and it's frightening. It has 18 inch horns that will rip you in half. And so, you have the whole film crew, the sound guy with a big bag on his belly.
He's like, wait a minute.
And it's amazing how we all become Olympic athletes because we can hurdle a 12-foot fence in like one jump. But, ask me to get out of a car and not moan about my knees hurting.
Yeah, exactly.
But somehow,
Hey, the lion woke up.
Yeah, well, again, there are certain shows that we've had lions wake up in the middle of a procedure. We've had sound men and cameramen bitten by snakes. Some are poisonous and some aren't. And you're in the middle of the
Amazon. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And then, ultimately, and I get this all the time when I talk to a lot of the young kids, what's the most dangerous animal you've ever seen? And, quite frankly, it's the unpredictability of man. And it's not that like, I go in these areas where people are pulling guns and stuff. I mean, some of our police shows, we have those issues, but really it's the guy that doesn't want to be seen on camera and thinks, I'm going to jump in my car and drive out of here really quickly. Well, yeah, there's someone standing behind your car. You know what I mean? Like exactly. It's those type of, you can't really anticipate what humans are going to do any better than you can anticipate what
and in your situation too, where you're heading up the crew, you're like dad, right? You have to be watching all the kids, make sure nobody loses an arm or gets run over.
Yes, we are an incredibly dysfunctional family, but unfortunately there is a father figure sometimes that goes there.
Yeah. But what's your if you had to think, because the list of shows, people can check out your list of shows on IMDb, which is basically where you can check everybody's credits that's in the industry. But what's like when you think about like my favorite thing I've done as far as shows goes, what's your favorite show?
That's really tough.
I mean, I know they're kind of like all your children, but
and they're so.
Who's your favorite kid?
We just finished, like I said, the big project for Disney. It was a huge crew. We worked with a London British company, Aero Media, out of the UK. It was the first time that I really worked under the banner of Disney, who owns National Geographic. Okay. So what was so great about it was what we were able to pull out. No one had ever been allowed to go behind the scenes of Disney and actually film there since the beginning.
And you're talking about the Animal Kingdom,
right? Animal Kingdom as well as Epcot.
Oh, okay.
So to actually see just the sheer scope of those facilities, that was amazing. And it was just a great experience. I mean, we had 4 different cinematographers. They all specialized in something. We had an underwater guy. I had some guys that were like specialty, rigging. Brought out a good friend that kind of is the epic cinematographer for like film look. And it was just great to be able to have 4 teams, almost 50 people on the ground, and everyone worked fantastic together. And
Awesome.
It really is cohesive. You can edit from one DP to another, and they all had the same mindset.
What is a DP for people that don't know?
Director of photography or cinematographer. You can kind of flip back and forth.
So he's the guy that's making sure the shot's right, and
he designs the look, and you have your camera operators underneath him, but he's the one that's making sure that the design, the lens is what he wants. Then we have different producers. In a situation like that, the producers become my mini directors. So they're directing that scene for the day, but I'm directing the show. And then I have a partner, Rick Dowland. Rick is back at post, and he's the maestro.
Putting all the pieces together.
Everything together. I always get these calls like, we got this great interview about an alligator, but you guys never filmed alligators. Those are crocodiles. And I'm like, all right. We're going to go back and fix that.
Because people that watch Nat Geo, if you don't do that right, they're going to burn you.
There's nothing more embarrassing than calling the animal the wrong species.
Oh, look at the monkey. It's a dog.
Yeah. Or, asking someone, after 3 weeks of working with silverback gorillas, so what's the difference of a gorilla opposed to, an orangutan? And they just look at you like, how dare you? You work for National Geographic. And I'm like, I went to art school. Come on.
Exactly. That's so funny. Yeah. And actually, the awesome thing, obviously Disney, we all grew up with Disney, but Disney's known for quality as far as programming. I grew up with watching Wild World of Disney and Mutual Omaha's Wild Kingdom, all that stuff. And also obviously Nat Geo too. So the quality level and being entrusted working with those brands, because they are huge brands in the world of content, that must be like fun and challenging. And
it's nerve-wracking. I'm not gonna lie. It's like one of it's as a musician, you have your own style and stuff, and then all of a sudden a big name calls you and says, hey, I hear you're great, can you come and sit in with my band? You're going, oh man. I know the chord, but
they would say like a butt puckering moment.
There definitely is. And what was nice was Disney, they did trust us. It took a little bit to really kind of be like, I can't believe we're letting someone do this, get out, but they really sat back and trust us. I'd been with National Geographic for several years at that point. So I believe I had their trust. I think they were a little nervous, but it worked out great. And so I think it's probably my newest show, but the most exciting. Working in the Amazon is always great. Been there a few times. I love mountain work. So we did, I had a small team go with me to the French Alps, and we were, working with researchers there. It's just fantastic to go to these places. Yeah,
it's like, because you go as obviously doing, for work essentially, but obviously you must enjoy the travel and you must enjoy the interaction with the locals and that whole aspect.
Yeah, I think being able to see people in their own environment, in their own world, and the culture, the streets, the window in that apartment building you're staying in, it really dictates how we film something. Where if I was in the studio situation, I'm asking them to bring their heritage to me, but it doesn't really matter because I'm going to whitewash it with a green screen. You know what I mean?
And it kind of gets diluted a little bit.
Oh yeah, if not diluted, sometimes it's 100% removed. It's really, and again, I don't want to. I have friends that do that work and they do fantastic work. It's just not where my heart and soul is. I prefer the travel and to just be plunked down in the middle of someone else's life and then try to figure out how do I film this and represent it.
Yeah, and that's the sort of, I think the hook for the audience is actually getting a slice and a really authentic slice of, that environment. Like you said, the Amazon, like most people are not ever going to go there. So they're really going there through your camera and through your show.
Yeah. And then I'm not going to lie. I got into it because I was trying to figure out how do I get my butt over to Australia.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Documentaries might be the way,
That's the key.
Yeah.
And that'll be the easy road.
And it's like, I haven't been to the Antarctic. So I guess, so 2 continents I haven't been to, right? Australia and Antarctic, but I've been to all the other ones many times. I'm like, I got into this to go to Australia.
Right. Yeah.
I've been off the coast on aircraft carriers, close enough where you can see the beach, but never put foot there.
Yeah. That's, awesome. Actually, I mean, what a great life, even beyond just the filming and that kind of thing. Like just to have those experiences, most people just don't. So it's amazing.
Yeah. No, I know I'm real lucky. I'm not going to lie.
I know you have also something that you have a big passion for is children's documentaries, children's education. I know you have a animation thing you've been working on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to I think my own, difficulties in school. School was a real torture for me, and people have their own, some guys were super shy and stuttered, I mean, everyone has something.
Yeah, everybody has a thing.
Right? Yeah. And mine was, I mean, going to school and, being several years behind my age in terms of my reading capability.
Yeah.
School was really difficult. And so if I wasn't clowning around and trying to get the negative of,
sure,
reinforcement from
and you're trying to figure out a way to fit in because you're having those challenges. And
right. And I learned so much. I was a visual learner. My mom and my dad were great about getting us to museums. And
awesome.
Whenever we traveled, we always, went places and learned about them. And I was like, documentary for kids can do that. I mean, as early as like Sesame Street, I was born a year before Sesame Street came out, so I'm kind of an old dude, but, kids learn while they watch stuff. And, I teamed up with a friend of mine who was a school teacher, and I was like, let's do something for kids, but not as adults telling kids this is what you have to learn. This is more show about for kids, but questions that kids have that ask. So instead of like, here's a rocket ship and here's how you go to outer space, kids don't care. Kids want to know, how do you pee in zero gravity?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I started, it was more of a passion project. It was on the side, but I was able to team up with Ken Fountain, who is a fantastic 3D animator early in his career. And we kind of designed this series called The Ebos. It lives online. My goal was always to get it to PBS. And by the time I finally got to PBS and they liked it after 10 years of like hammering away at this, sure, I just didn't have the money to continue anymore. It was kind of that bitter. So like, I reached Mount Olympus, but I'm not going to build a house. I'm just
but I think, also learning that process as far as, obviously you have the filming and the production process, but like thinking through the thing with, like you said, with children, they think differently, right? They look at the world obviously differently. And what's going back to like the dyslexia thing, a common theme actually from some of the world's best known creators, best known scientists was they had those issues, which is interesting. Like there's, like Einstein he had a lot of learning disabilities. Like it's fascinating how creatives and also that for some reason seems to be connected.
Well, I don't want to speak blanketly for everyone that has.
Yeah, because everybody has different things, sure.
But for me, it was to overcompensate the inability to just open up a book and read. So I was a visual learner, which obviously I'm very strong in visual language.
Sure.
And my curiosity was always, the pre-internet, where do you go to watch these films that can educate you? The encyclopedia was where we did our book reports as kids. That was torture for me, and I watch my son, my little guy now, and, he can talk to Siri to pull something up and he watches a video and it's amazing what he's able to retain, not just what he hears from, the audio side of things, but citing the pictures and it's a great way to learn. And I kind of feel like not everything we produce has to be for ratings late at night,
right,
or so many of the cartoons that are out there, they're cute and they're fun, but deliver a little bit of a message,
because you got their attention. So it's a really good opportunity to help expand their world.
Exciting.
Right.
Yeah. And make it entertaining. If people want to go, it's theebos.com. They can see it. So it looks like eBoss, but what's fun about it is everything that the characters talk about, it's set up in a kid's, how do fish at the aquarium not get eaten by the shark? That's
Right.
the number one, and no one ever talks about it.
Well, and I wonder about that.
Yeah,
and sometimes they do, right?
yeah, okay, animals are going to do what is animal instinct. But at
Exactly. Yeah.
Disney, when we were doing the Disney show, they did a great job of really helping us explain to a broad audience, because National Geographic doesn't typically go that low in the demographics.
Oh,
Where
okay.
Disney does.
Yeah.
And I think you can make really great content and not make it stupid. You know what I mean? You can make it at a kid's level, but an intelligent kid's level.
Yeah, because kids are smart and they're getting smarter every day. It's amazing.
Oh,
yeah. What's the did you ever have a desire to make films, as far as like, for, I guess what you would say, like the general release kind of films? Is that something that's been interesting for you, or interesting, or?
I go back and forth. I do want to do more comedy. A lot of my little shorts, are comedy. And I have a lot of friends. It's amazing how many kids from my hometown have gone to Los Angeles and are big writers, big directors.
And that is a hot, like Chicago, that whole area is a hotbed of talent. I mean, music talent, film, it's acting.
Yeah, the connections are amazing. And, people do, it's not 6 degrees of separation, I think, where I came from. I think it's more like 2.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great, talent. I grew up, Greg Perdikin, who's a really big director and does some great things with Netflix. I grew up with D.B. Weiss from Game of Thrones. Now I'm sounding like I'm just dropping names, but so I'll stop doing that. But
those are just people that you knew. Yeah.
Yeah. These were guys that I just, Alan Loeb, a great screenwriter. I went to college. My roommate was, Peter Craig, who was a big film writer. You come across and you meet these people, and I love what they do. Who wouldn't want to go direct a feature film? Yeah. But again, I think I'm strongest at understanding people's real world that they're at, and pulling their story, because sometimes people are reluctant to share that or don't realize that their story is as interesting.
Yeah. That's something we actually even talked about that with you, because you were kind of like, I don't know, music thing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not really about music. It's about truth, and it's about creative and creativity. Yeah. And those are universal concepts, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely. And so when I watch like Greg, I love talking to him. Steve Krazer is another really good friend of mine, has a couple shows. They're working under this different type of budget, different restraint, and they're working off the written word. Again, maybe it's going back to dyslexia. I don't want to have a script in my hand. I don't know. Sure. But so the long answer to your very short question was, it would be great to direct a Hollywood film, but it's never been. I think once I really started making films, not like 9 years old, but like when I was in my 20s, I realized documentary is where I wanted to be.
Yeah. And I think you mentioned Netflix, so that they've become a big behemoth in the world of content creation. I mean, because they have a lot of bucks. Is that something you're seeing a lot of guys moving into that direction, that we're working with companies like that and more online focused?
Well, it's the great disruptor for our industry. It was really hard to, documentary or scripted films, very difficult to sell these, because there's only so many studios. Right. But now with the birth of streaming, you can go to Apple, you can go to Netflix, you can go to Amazon, and they're like doing the HBO model. I mean, they're throwing big budgets. So I would say when Rick Dallern and I, when we work on ideas together, first we want to make sure the idea is pretty solid. And then the second thing we do is we say which network or which streaming service is most interested in this type of idea.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know where it's going to air, you can't really develop it. But at the same time, if you're developing, in my world, if you're only developing for Netflix, you're not going to find something that's that great.
Yeah. And you obviously you want to kind of direct it toward a certain avenue, but at the same time, you don't want to be constrained by that.
Yeah. But the streaming services, God bless them for being here. It's the problem is, as a viewer, for me, it's overwhelming. The list of stuff I need to watch, I know.
Yeah, it gets like, but they're creating some really interesting content. I think that Queen's Gambit was one of their babies, but it's great. At least I think what it does is it does create a lot of opportunities for younger folks coming into the business, don't you think?
Without a doubt. You know, you used to pray that you get into a film festival, and you'd pray that that film festival would get you to a bigger film festival. That the film festival market is still there, but it's not the only way for an unknown to break into Hollywood.
Yeah. What's your biggest advice to young aspiring, I guess, content creators, filmmakers, directors? What's some of the points that really come to your mind that you like to share to people?
Yeah, you know, the one thing that I tell people is, you know, to be kind of multifaceted. You know, I love redundancy in my projects, and it's a must when I do a hire. So it's great you're a shooter, but, you know, do you understand audio, or have you been an editor ever before? Just so you know, are you holding the shot for 10 seconds? And that 10 seconds is, I need the fade up, I need the fade out.
Right.
you know,
just the general mechanics of filming, right?
Yeah. You know, and then people can roll their eyes. You know, I have a lot of shooters that are just shooters, but they're never the first on my list. You know, I really try to go to the people that have multiple skill sets. And for young, you know, I just spoke with a buddy of mine teaches at Syracuse. I still keep in touch with the university. I spoke to a cinematographer's class there, cinematography class, and they were all asking which cameras, how do they show their work? And I gave them 3 examples that were proof of concept that I shot with an iPhone. And I actually, one of them I edited on an iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not about the tool. It's about the idea and the tools you use to implement it.
Yep.
And I think everyone, I want to do this, but I can't get my hands on a big camera. Don't let that stop your creativity.
Yeah, because people that like you can look at that role. If they send you, you know, a demo package to look at, you can see past that, right?
Oh, anyone that's been in the industry more than 2 years will completely forgive the camera that you've used, but they will not forget. But if you haven't moved that camera, or if you haven't used that camera in an interesting way, then you're not worth your salt.
Yeah,
but
because that's sort of your language, right? That language has to be there.
There's a visual language, and there's also, you know, how you can develop your style. You know, and I always tell college kids, when I actually taught a class one semester, and I was like, here's the deal. If you have a 20-year-old friend that's going to be in your film, they must play a 20-year-old. I don't want baby powder in their hair and that they're the grandfather. It doesn't work. You're like, don't work with what you have.
Yeah.
If all you have is access to a dorm room, then your idea should be set in a dorm room. Don't try to put curtains up and a fake chandelier and call it a ballroom. You know, it's like stay within your world. But again, that happens with documentaries, you know, for the young people that are listening to it. I mean, I'd love to shoot on a bigger boat, but I can't help it. I'm on a 2-man boat and I have 4 people.
Yeah, and it's about the story, anyways. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I'm a Getty Images guy, photographer, whatever, and I'm like, people always like, well, what kind of gear do you use? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's not really the thing. I'm actually, some of the shots that have been licensed the most for me were phone shots, or were simple, really simple, low budget, you know, GoPro. I mean, because that's not the thing. It's the content. It's the story.
Exactly. I mean, people are shocked how many GoPros we use. We use hundreds of GoPros in our shows, because the GoPro can only get into a certain area that other cameras can. Yeah, there's a great book. The best camera you have is the one in your pocket.
Yeah.
I think it was actually like an Apple product kind of book, but it's, you know, those photos are stunning. Yeah,
because some of the best content are things you just look over and you go, oh, wow. Like, snap. Or even like you said, like you're filming a show and you have a sort of a plan, but all of a sudden like the sun comes up in a certain way and the light hits a certain way. And as a cinematographer, you're like, oh, that's gold.
And a sunset is 15 minutes, you know, so you don't have time to go back. You got to get it. You know, like it's a good example is like drones. Everyone wants to know how we're using drones. And it's like, it's not necessarily the drone, it's the drone operator. Does he understand that it's not a helicopter, but it's also better than a crane? You know what I mean? And a good drone operator knows I'm going to fly between 18 feet and 106 feet. I'm not going to go where helicopters.
There's a sweet spot.
And I'm going to use it creatively. So, you know, my advice is like, you know, don't think you need good gear. stay with your story, and in the story will show through with whatever camera you use.
Yeah. What's the future for you? I mean, do you obviously you're rolling on Moonshiners. That's going to be wrapping, I guess, probably pretty soon. What's coming up for you in the near future?
There's always like 4 or 5 irons in the fire, and I'd probably say, I'm thankful if one gets hot.
Right.
We're looking at some projects outside the United States, but that's all COVID dependent.
Right.
We really, I believe that the magic of Disney's Animal Kingdom did really quite well. I don't think they were earth-shattering numbers, but it was very consistent, and it's still growing on Disney Plus. So hoping for a season 2 there.
Yeah, Disney Plus is an awesome outlet, and you're getting. I mean, so they have some great content.
Yeah, they do, and they've been wonderful to work with. I've zero complaints. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're working with such a huge company. Do you get lost?" It's like, no, I think they really do pay attention to their products and
they have resources, right? They can help you.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful resources. And then I've been working on 2 of my own documentaries. One of them involves Craig Schneider, who you've already done a piece with.
And that's actually how we met through Craig. Yeah. Craig's a great producer, remixer guy out of Chicago. Very talented guy.
Super talented. And he works with Ralphie Rosario. They have a new album coming out. And so we're doing a documentary on some house music.
Awesome.
And I'm doing a documentary on 80s action heroes. So it's kind of, those are like when I'm not, making moonshine or dodging trees that are being cut down on one of my other shows.
Yeah, I think we kind of have a similar background, like with that kind of stuff, because I have a love for the 80s. Like, there's just some classic stuff.
It's like I will always have a soft spot for a mullet. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, exactly.
It was
greatest American hero.
Oh, fantastic.
All that stuff. Yeah, that's good fun. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're a busy guy, and I caught you on your day off, which is, so I really appreciate the time. You could be at Dollywood, but
who said I'm not going?
Well, true. Yeah. Right.
No, I really appreciate this. So thank you. I'm glad that you're interested in hearing the story.
Oh yeah, actually, it's a fascinating story, and I think all those shows are so popular that people are all curious about how they get put together and the background and the people that are involved. And I think you guys actually don't get enough light shine on you, so it's really interesting. How can people find you? I know you have your website, so can you tell us that address?
Yeah, my production company is Red Branch Productions, so you can go to redbranch.com. And I'm pretty accessible. I put my phone number right there. You can phone, text, email, call, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Especially if they're young people looking, because a lot of times if I'm not on a show, people are asking. So don't hold back. Send me an email if you're looking.
Do you get a lot of folks that approach you with show ideas, or how do you deal with that?
I get a lot of show ideas. It depends on who's approaching me. Sometimes I'm brutally honest. I'm like, I'm sorry, there's not a character in your project. Sometimes the show ideas are, pretty decent. And I'm like, well, here's what you need to do to get it to the next level.
Yeah.
What is really, I usually design shows, but I design shows with production companies that they have their relationships with the networks. Sure. I do deal with network executives all the time, but I don't typically design, if someone, hey, I want to do something about my grandmother. She's fantastic. I'm sure she is, but I'm not the guy to shop it. But I'm more than happy. I mean, I know the way that I know the items you need to have it to shop it to someone that.
Right. And and you never know, right? I mean, like there might be somebody like you hear an idea, you go, wow, that's a great idea. You never know.
I got called to do, I was on a show and they called and I thought I was being punked. They're like, hey, it's a survival show. The contestants are naked and they have to survive for 30 days. And I'm like,
you're like, that'll never work.
I was like, you guys are full of it. I'm on a show. I don't know who this is. I was like, I thought it was like my brothers.
Yeah.
Naked and Afraid was a huge hit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
You're like, whoa. And then I've worked on like these great police shows that were, it's SWAT in an urban environment. And it's going to be, oh my God, we'll do 100 episodes. And they do 2 episodes and it goes nowhere. So,
talking about that, I remember, I can't remember exactly the year, probably like late 80s. I saw the first episode of Cops they ever filmed in Miami. And I watched that show. And at this point, like now that kind of stuff is like sort of like tame, like, whatever. But back then,
People were horrified. They're like, how are they doing this show? And how is,
Yeah.
I mean, really, that in the real world were really real the forefront, of the reality kind of.
Groundbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done some really great stuff. Then there are also a lot of police shows that you watch and you're like, that borderlines on entrapment for a story, and
Right.
as a producer, I really try to stay away from that, because at the end of the day, you're dealing with people's lives, and I don't.
Yeah.
For entertainment, that's a tough call.
And some of those folks, like, they're not obviously TV professionals. They don't really understand the consequences of what they really wanted. Like, yeah, I'll do this on air, but it's like,
yeah. It's like, it's one of the reasons why I kind of love filming in other countries, because believe it or not, like there's a different ethics there when you're creating content. And,
right.
I mean, for all the great things that American entertainment brings, every once in a while, it's kind of refreshing to just work in Finland.
Yeah. Actually, I go to Finland a lot, so yeah, it's a different world.
I know you're hanging out with the directors in like Norway or something, and you're just like, that's how you approach it. That's so civilized.
Yeah, exactly. Because they have a different, or even UK, right? They have a different way. It's a different sensibility, and and those shows. I mean, the thing is too about like your shows, the reality TV shows. Some people don't realize that those have big legs. Those shows, they're all over the world in sometimes in multiple languages, even, right?
Oh yeah, I think Moonshiners. I'm sure I'll get a call on this later, but I believe it's in over 120 countries.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, the reach of Discovery, History Channel, National Geographic. I don't think people realize just how many languages it gets dubbed into, and it's so much fun to watch. A good old boy with a southern draw talk about moonshine in the backwoods
in Russian.
Yeah, exactly, Russian and German.
It's funny,
and the guys love it. I mean, we're not filming. Yeah, they all pull it up on their phone. Here I am speaking Spanish. I think that's so great. That's
funny. Thank you so much, Dean. I really appreciate your time. It's a fascinating story. And people, please go to Dean's website. You have a lot of actually promo rolls on there. You have commercial film cuts on there. People can see kind of your work, also your animation stuff. It's a really fascinating story. And I look forward to seeing what you get involved with next. I love all the shows you've been doing, and I'm sure you got some great stuff coming up.
There's some fun ones. Yeah, in the next year, once we get through this health crisis, I think we're going to be rocking some really great ideas.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
You bet. Be good.